Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nuranisha binti Syafadin. Okay, first I will present about the introduction. As we know, Muslims are advised to engage in riba-free dealing and commerce to avoid engaging in any transaction that lead to riba. Furthermore, there are other instances in which the transaction is comparable to acceptable commerce, but the concern proposed is akin to that of riba, which is referred to hilah for riba. This is a use or a method to keep such transaction from being mistaken for the riba transaction. As a result, such trades are not allowed for Muslim. In general, various Islamic financing concepts are being applied in the market, and tawarruk is one of them. Most jurists believe that tawarruk to be makruh, which is reprehensible, and harus, which is acceptable according to the Maliki school of thought, of one very particular reason, that is to prevent the riba. Because Malaysia is currently in the midst of a transition era when dual banking is the normal, tawarruk is seen as a superior way to prevent the riba. Tawarruk also should be the nearest alternative to the Muslim consumer in their liquidity management due to the frequent practice of conventional personal loans prior to the introduction of Islamic banking. Tawarruk also is a deposit of financing, liquidity financing, and also personal financing Islamic finance instrument. Tawarruk is referred to the practice of purchasing a commodity at a discounted prices, either by agreement or murabahah, and then selling it to the third party to obtain liquidity. In this sense, tawarruk might be considered a share trade, as there is no distinction between purchasing cash and providing cash or a postponed payment. Okay, next, we present about the objective. Islamic finance has emerged as a viable alternative to traditional banking, a system that include elements that are prohibited by Sharia. Tawarruk is a type of Islamic finance that is often employed in Islamic institutions. This study comes in on two key issues: a discipline that deals with the legitimacy of tawarruk, and also its practical implication in Malaysian Islamic banking. That's all from me.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Farida Natasha binti Muhammad Saleh. I will present about issues regarding organized tawarruk. Organized tawarruk is a new way for Islamic financial institutions that offer Islamic concept to deliver personal finance. Tawarruk, according to scholars, should involve purchasing and selling to make money. However, there is no trade in this scenario which is in organized tawarruk. The customer just need to sign the agreement and everything is done by the bank. Buying and selling, there is effort, risk element of luck, so he is entitled to make a profit, different like usury. But if he just sits still, he can get the money, so it just seems like the conventional system. The OIC judgment suggests that banks are not truly interested in delivering underlying assets, which are already subject to overlapping broker ownership. Banks are not often equipped to accept delivery of tons of silver or gold. Instead, they rely on broker and custody. As a consequence, the general rules and restrictions of sales apply to the contract of organized tawarruk. Because the contract has unique qualities compared to regular sales, scholars believe that a seller must own a commodity before offering it for sales. Financial organizations do not always receive the commodity ahead of time. It is not authorized to offer the commodities before obtaining them in this situation. According to the Malikis, it is legal to guarantee a buyer that a product will be obtained for him without a true contract of sales, and both the vendor and the buyer must keep their promise. Moreover, the commodity has indeed been stated. When the customer does not see the commodity, the seller must communicate the specification to the customer. Okay, next I will present about the gambling element in tawarruk-based profit rate swaps. Okay. Market instability and volatility are a risk that Islamic finance is not exempted to. IPRS is one of the Islamic hedging tools that were used by Islamic Bank at the present times. IDMA is being utilized to enable the swap in Malaysia, where a large number of IPRS transactions have been generated. Swaps and other derivatives were initially believed to be disallowed in Islamic finance. They enter the knowledge gap when they become more widely used in conventional finance as hedging and speculating mechanism in the late 1990s. During the year 2000 until 2007, Islamic finance practitioners attempted to establish Islamic derivative based on salam, murabahah, wakalah, ibhah, wa'du as well as tawarruk. As according to Islam, a certain level of risk is signal that fairness is being preserved for all people involved. The use of Islamic profit rate swaps and option structure on tawarruk raise the questions of gambling, in which one party may profit from the arrangement at the expense of another. One party may be gainer or a loser in the tawarruk-based hedging of risk. At this point, the party may be able to prevent the risk of loss while simultaneously managing to generate revenue. The contract transferring ownership must take effect immediately and not be contingent on future occurrence. The same holds true for being subjected to conditions that could be construed as gambling. Finally, such an agreement will be viewed as an exchange of ownership with the presence of risks, because all of the contracts of ownership must be completed at the same time. So, attaching the contract to the risk is invalid because that is the content of gambling. When one party hedges its risk exposure from currency exchange rate or profit rate movement through tawarruk-based hedging such as swaps and options, the party that gains will sell a commodity to the other party at a price that is higher than the market price. The same dilemma arises in Islamic options. Even though the client is required to pay a charge to the Islamic banks, they will sell the options to the bank at a predetermined price. If the exchange rate or interest rate is not in the client's favor, the customer will make the necessary calculations to guarantee that the premium charge loss is smaller than the loss resulting from the transactions. During the conference session on 16 until 18 January 2003, the OIC International Fyp Academy characterized the content of gambling, which is first, any game wherein the loser forced to make a payment to the victor, and second, gain possessions from someone else by getting into mukhatara, iaitu risk, with the purpose of winning at the expense of someone else. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum, I am Tuku Nabila Tuku Nizam. So I would like to explain about Sharia non-compliance events. So the Islamic Financial Service Board has classified Sharia non-compliance as the risk that arising from the failure of Islamic financial institutions to follow the principles and Sharia rules that established by the Sharia councils. Okay, this Sharia non-compliance events has a significant impact towards the operational of any Islamic financial institutions around the world. Before any contract is executed, an appropriate valuation and inspection are required, especially for tawarruk contract, in which the tawarruk contract is mainly used of offering products, services in Islamic financial institution in Malaysia. Okay, the method of determination and justification towards these Sharia non-compliance events are happening differently from one bank to another bank, which is depends on their Sharia committee's decisions. Okay, in Malaysia, credit card is the one of most popular products that offered by Islamic bank, and it is used tawarruk concept for this credit card. Okay, on the other hand, tawarruk was confronted with some of the controversial issues that is leading to Sharia non-compliance events. There are several identified Sharia of non-compliance events that was issued. The first one is the fictitious transaction. The second one is pre-arrangements. The third one is the appointment of the bank as an agent. The fourth one is the profit on the unpaid repayment of the credit limit. And the last one is resale of unowned merchandise.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Arfika binti Azmi. Okay, next I will present about the criticism the legality of tawarruk. Tawarruk or commodity is a concept that has been around for a long time. A number of opponents claim that tawarruk-based financial products have significant similarities to interest-based goods. The Rabita Alam Islamic Fyp Academy in Mecca conclude that tawarruk-based product structure should be termed as haram or prohibited in Islamic law. There is debate about the validity of tawarruk, with some agreeing that it is valid and does not violate established Sharia principles because its use is to avoid riba and should not be seen as hila or deception. A number of individuals believe that tawarruk is illegal because of the negative consequences for buyers. Only Hanbali jurists, most of whom he considered justifiable, mention tawarruk explicitly. Okay, next is about the fatwas from Islamic countries. The ruling of organization, which are Organization of Islamic from Fyp Academy, whose membership consists of Islamic countries, assembled is the 15th annual session of the Organization of the Islamic Conference. Their ruling about tawarruk is issued a resolution in favor of tawarruk. On the condition that the buyer fulfills all requirement with tawarruk, does not resell the product he purchased at cheaper rates to the original vendors, either indirectly or directly. If or when these terms and conditions are not met, usury and tawarruk transaction are classified as usury transaction, as respectively something is forbidden. The ruling of the organization about tawarruk is issue Sharia guideline for the tawarruk application. The organization have accepted the reality of tawarruk, but only in specific criteria or condition are made in order for the transaction to be Sharia compliant. Okay, next is about the argument of the opponents. It have the opponent's argument on tawarruk, which is the problem of tawarruk is contentions in determining its legitimacy, as accepted by numerous experts have a different perspective on whether tawarruk is allowed or not. Ibn al-Qayyim claims in his book Alam al-Mu'a'in that Ibn Taymiyyah prohibited tawarruk, and the people begged him to allow it again, but he refused. Tawarruk contains a plot that leads to a loan of money with interest, as well as a rice that leads to the loan of money with interest. Some varieties of riba, such as riba anasiyah, use this technique. Another opponent's argument in tawarruk, the goal of buying and selling does not exist. Everything is known by its goal rather than by its words, and costs are only acknowledged based on their goals. Tawarruk's negative effect include it hints to the creation of debt, the amount of which tends to continue to rise. It results in the exchange of money now for more money in the future, which is unfair given the risk and uncertainty involved, and it leads to gambling speculation through the proliferation of debt. Okay, next is about the tawarruk practical side. The goal of tawarruk is to give a cash right away. The motivation for this is a fear that Islamic banking has no other option than to advance cash to consumers, despite the fact that Islamic banks are entities that become investors, not financial middlemen or cash suppliers. Islamic banking takaful, Islamic interbank money market, and Islamic capital market are the four key components of the Islamic financial system. Tawarruk deposit standard agreement accounts between banks and corporations were also established with the goal of reducing obstacles to the sector's expansion. This makes it possible from Islamic bank to conduct financing operations. Involve specific assets in order to meet the Islamic requirement become strong, and almost all Islamic banks use this application of tawarruk, which means tawarruk that replace by al-inah, give more confidence to consumer to use it. Blockchain technology is one of the innovation that is not against Sharia but is more compliant with Sharia, because it allows all parties involved in Islamic finance transaction to conduct transaction in a truly transparent manner, regardless or whether the parties are foreign people or outsider. Okay, the conclusion is it may be inferred that Islamic banks' tawarruk transactions are compliant with Sharia requirements. With the rise of the digital world, tawarruk transaction must be improved to keep up with the new financial developments. Smart tawarruk technology is one of the innovations that is not against Sharia but is more Sharia compliant, because it enables all parties involved in Islamic financial transaction to conduct transaction in a truly transparent manner, regardless of whether the parties involved people. This lowers transaction costs while also bringing the concept of openness, fairness, and Islamic justice into the financial system. A smart tawarruk will allow for more dependable transaction, allowing regulators to carry out their supervisory tasks with guaranteed Sharia governance. That's all from us. Thank you.